Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hello, folks in the chat. It has been a while, it's been too long. A lot has been going on, so let me update you, y'all. So today I actually graduated from a nonprofit organization I've been working for the past year, and it's through AmeriCorps. I have many critiques of the nonprofit industry since working in the nonprofit industry, especially in the education sector. But that will be another video for another day when it is more researched. But I have been just trying to get things together, trying to say goodbye to my students, trying to close the year out gracefully, and just trying to move on and get my mind right for what's next in my life. So, today, as the title shows, we will be talking about African internationalism from the African Revolutionary People's Party, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll clarify that a little bit more and read some of their objectives. And yeah, but first, we're going to do a little state and local politics. I think it's important to pay attention to what's happening in your city, in your state, because the federal government is a huge entity and there's too many of us to really have a lot of control over them. So I think the most power that we can hold is in local and state politics, though I do not at all believe that electoral politics are the way that will liberate us, that will get more people what they need in life. That could not happen to capitalism, no matter how much we want to press electoral politics into the brains of so many people. So first, I am from Wisconsin, and I saw this video with Rachel Maddow talking about what Wisconsin is doing with our taxpayer money. So we'll see. Let's see what Wisconsin Republicans want to do.
It's like Republicans in Arizona. Wisconsin's Republican-controlled legislature has decided they're going to spend an undisclosed amount of taxpayer funds to entertain President Trump's fantasies about some kind of election fraud that will explain why Joe Biden's in the White House, even though it really should be Donald Trump. In Wisconsin, though, the way they've decided to go about doing it is weirder than anything we've seen in other states.
Is it just me, or does it seem like corporate media, especially like the establishment dens, are becoming more condescending, and the establishment Republicans are becoming more condescending to each other? Like, is that on purpose? Because usually, like, it's this bipartisan, like, unity, and oh, we're two separate parties, and we have to do bipartisanship, when it's really they're the same, different sides of the same motherfucking coin. So there's that. But this contention in the media, I question that, especially since, like a lot of Republicans and Democrats and the establishment, they really believe the same thing, which is greed.
So far, according to reporting from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the Republican Speaker of the Wisconsin Assembly has hired 3 former police officers to carry out an investigation to, quote, investigate aspects of the November election.
Why are police shouldn't it be like political operatives? Like, just because they're police officers don't mean that they have the qualification to investigate shit like this, even though this shit is fucking dumb, is based in no fucking facts. It's just a bunch of people mad about losing power. So let's be real about that one. People who are privileged will say that, what is that saying? It's like, if you've never experienced oppression, then when your privilege taken away, it'll feel like it, something along those lines. Look, I butcher that. But basically, if you have experienced privilege in your life, anyone taking away your power that was given to you because of your whiteness or because of your economic status, It means nothing.
Quote, Assembly Speaker Voss said he was giving the investigators a broad mandate to spend about 3 months reviewing all tips and following up on the most credible ones. The officers have reportedly also been given subpoena power. Over the week.
Okay, the Wisconsin Republican legislator, state legislator, they're a bunch of fools. Okay, northern Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is made up of like 4 to 6 blue districts, and like blue is just a stupid term to me, but basically very few districts in Wisconsin vote Democrat, and those districts that do primarily vote Democrat are the most populated. That's why it's like kind of even. However, kind of even in the presidential election, but in terms of state legislature, the Republicans have majority rule because majority of the districts are red. So even though Wisconsin, during the 2016 election, Wisconsin turning red was like such a huge like deal to everybody because that was the first time in 50 years. But the ushering in of Scott Walker, whom I have many critiques of myself, and how he fast-paced conservative Republicans in the legislature during his time as a governor has impacted the legislature today. And now, since it's not just the legislator, and since Trump came in and all these judges came in, now there's more Republican judges. So, we're fucked. But now the legislator is giving these former cops, subpoena power. So now they have congressional power. This is too much oversight for some shit that has been disproven for almost a year. It's November. What's that? June? We'll do May, April, March, February, January, December, November. Well, we can count June because it's November 3rd. So like 7 months. 7 fucking months ago, and you're still trying to read into this bullshit. It's weird. Like, you're losers. Like, this is the same shit. Like, this gives me fucking Confederacy. People who say, like, the Confederate flag is Southern heritage, but you're actually traitors to the United States. And so, like, you whitewashing what actually happened, that's all history is a bunch of whitewashing, basically. What we have now.
Again, the Journal Sentinel dug into the background of one of the 3 officers hired by the Republican Speaker. His experience in investigating voter fraud includes him writing a bogus report on alleged voter fraud in the 2004 election that a federal judge later declared not trustworthy. According to the Journal Sentinel, that officer
hired an officer. Hold on, let me go back. They hired an officer who wrote a voter fraud report in Milwaukee being one of 5 or 6 blue districts in the state. So they choose to focus on that district in particular, which I find is anti-black, anti-colonialist, white supremacist rhetoric in and of itself, because you're automatically going to districts that are majority people of color, majority black. Milwaukee's majority black. Majority minority, I guess. Whatever that means. I don't even like to use the term minority, but we have a high Hispanic and black population in Milwaukee. Why focus on that district? That's the only one doing voter fraud. That's the only district doing voter fraud because it's not whom you voted for? Even though the majority of the state, majority of the districts, even though Wisconsin doesn't have that many people, it's still red. So he made this bogus report, and the U.S. District Judge Lynn Altman said that the report was untrustworthy because it's not based in nothing but your own racist, ethnocentric beliefs that black people, Hispanic people are inherently trying to steal the election when it's been y'all historically stealing elections. Gerrymandering, voter suppression, voter ID laws, poll taxes. I could go on. Republicans have been the ones doing all this fraud and suppression. Get the fuck out of here.
The judge later declared not trustworthy. According to the Journal Sentinel, that officer used his own funds to pay for copying and binding some copies of his bogus report, which he then delivered himself to the heads of the state Democratic and Republican parties.
Sad.
His boss then banned him from visiting the polls on Election Day in 2008, after which he quit the police force to go work for...
So this man's boss, this police officer at the time, his boss, barred him from visiting the polls on election days in 2008. I'm sure that has something to do with the anti-blackness around Obama. I'm sure it did. But damn, you know, cops, they like to see you rough motherfuckers up and shit. They really barred him? He really is a problem. And the Republicans hired this man to investigate. He doesn't even provide factual information. It's not
a Tea Party group that sends conservative partisan poll watchers to the polls on Election Day and that has been accused of intimidating minority and Democratic voters. That's who Wisconsin Republicans have just given subpoena power to cast doubt on the presidential election results in Wisconsin, which, I should note, Joe Biden won by a not inconsiderable margin. Joining us now is Ben Wickler. He is the chairman of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. Mr. Wickler, it's nice to see you. Thanks very much for joining us tonight.
It's good to see you, Rachel.
Looking in from the outside, this feels both in keeping with what we've seen in other states, including Arizona, and it also feels weirder and smaller. Can you tell me whether or not...
Yeah, why are they paying for an investigation in a different state with my motherfucking money? I complain about my taxes all the time. They take 20% of my shit. Faithfully. Okay? I don't want that shit to go to Arizona. I want that shit to go to people in Milwaukee who are homeless. I want that to go to housing. Okay? I want that to go to benefits. I want child tax credits for mothers. Yeah. I want us to get rid of the harmful systems and laws that are embedded in welfare, like making sure that fathers can't stay in the homes if the person's on welfare. How come fathers can't be on welfare either? Like, y'all created this patriarchy, and now the rest of us have to suffer, and men have to suffer as well. So everyone suffers under these conditions. But my taxpayer money is going to Arizona. Bitch, what? Like, come on.
That's an appropriate impression, or is there something else I should understand about it?
So I think you're right that it's weirder. It's very much in keeping with Wisconsin in 2021, but it's not smaller, because the difference between Wisconsin and the other states where Republicans are trying to trump up these sham investigations is that Wisconsin's been the tipping point in the last two presidential elections. And the other difference is that we do, as you said, have a Democratic governor, Tony Evers, who can actually veto Republican voter suppression bills. So this is about one thing. It's less about trying to relitigate 2020. It's more about...
I don't get down with the electoral politics, like I said, but Tony Evers blocking GOP. GOP has been a menace in Wisconsin lately. The laws... The only reason why Wisconsin doesn't have voter suppression laws on the books right now is because Tony Evers. And we need to be honest about that. Tony Evers election is up in 2022, Tony Evers, whoever, it cannot be the GOP. It cannot be GOP. Because Milwaukee and Dane County holding down the districts like they are in Wisconsin right now will not happen anymore if a GOP governor is elected in 2022 in Wisconsin. The only reason Wisconsin is blue is because of the 5 to 6 districts in Wisconsin that have a larger populations than different districts, and they carry us. They carry the Democratic Party on their fucking backs. Milwaukee County, Dane County especially, and northern Wisconsin districts with majority Native American populations that are also suffering. Okay, so the only reason why Wisconsin isn't going down the Georgia, Alabama, Texas road right now is because of Evers.
Trump steal 2024. And if Republicans manage to build up this suspicion, and then if they win the governorship, they'll pass voter suppression bills to tilt the vote in 2024, which is why we're obsessed with re-electing Tony Evers in 2022 so that they can't carry out this dastardly plot.
There you go.
The one thing that we've seen also, Ben, in Arizona is that this has become a huge fundraising juggernaut for Arizona Republicans. They are raising so much more money this year than they were this time last year. There was a great report about it today just in the Arizona Republic, that by creating this spectacle, whether or not they're only appealing to their hardcore partisans here, they've been able to attract basically Trump supporters' money.
No one has. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong, let me speak for myself. This tagline, Wisconsin Dems worry election probe will undermine confidence in election. It's been 7 months, okay? We had January 6th already. We saw people storm the Capitol building, terrorists storm the Capitol building, saying they want to hang Congress people because the election was rigged. Now, some of these people, majority people who are of a lower socioeconomic class, which is another reason why white solidarity will never get you far, because there were wealthy people, motherfuckers were taking private jets to the Capitol to raid it, okay? But the majority of people who were convicted for that were poor white folks. So your white solidarity will never save you when it comes to the almighty color green, that money, okay? So I don't think that this probe is going to undermine the confidence in election. And I don't know, like in the Joe Biden election, like most people are over that shit except for the Republicans. The only people who are worried, the only people that should be swayed, no one's going to be swayed by it. The Republicans already think what they think, and the liberals and everyone else already think what they think. There's like no persuading anymore. Republicans just hate to lose. And now they have this messianic fascist figure of Trump. They are even more emboldened to do so now. That's all that is. We should not, I don't know why Dems are worried if this will Joe Biden ain't going nowhere. The elections in general, I wonder, or the election in Joe Biden. Because of this, I don't know if this will undermine the confidence in elections in general. It depends on how much you follow corporate media, I suppose. But I don't think that this election will sway or be a catalyst to anyone voting in 2024, just because, or it will stop folks from voting. It's who people believe in is who they're going to vote. Or really last year was it was harm reduction strategy because Trump. But obviously, the Democrats didn't impeach him, and this is their goal. The GOP's goal is to get Trump back in 2024. I think the Dems want fascism. I mean, they are fascists. Like I said, Dems, Republicans, I will always say they are two sides of the same coin. But shit. We'll see.
From all over the country, that's all going into the coffers of Republican activists and the Republican Party in the state as they make this into a cause celeb that may not have any, direct manifestation in terms of the election results, but it will cast aspersions on they'll create suspicions about the election result, and it will build up their party and their ability to compete in the next elections.
It's a grift for the GOP, but they're turning it into political power. And the important thing is that if you believe in democracy, if you believe that everyone should have a say in determining self-government in our country, you've got to support the folks that are fighting for democracy. In Wisconsin, that means going to wisdems.org or going to tonyevers.com.
Now, democracy is a very loose term, I would say, in terms of American society. I don't think America was ever a democracy. You cannot be a democracy when your Constitution has that human beings are 3/5 of a person. Doesn't work that way. You can't develop democracy out of dehumanization. So, we're fighting to preserve as little semblance to fascism as we can gain. Okay, this isn't like, oh, we're saving the soul of America. Like, America never had a soul. Okay, when you come to America and genocide natives, when you come to America and you have these treaties with natives and don't follow through with any of them, okay, it's not democracy. It's authoritarian fascism for the means of capital, to gain capital, to extract capital from human beings and to exploit them and their land. That's what happened in Africa. That's exactly how capitalism came to be. But I'm getting off on a rant.
Chipping in. We're hiring organizers literally right now. You can find the application page on our website to make sure that across the state, we're talking to voters about the fact they do have voting rights, that they can request absentee ballots. Republicans can't shut that down, as much smoke as they like to kick up. So we've got to get both feet on the gas pedal to drive forward and make sure our democracy actually works in 2022 so that it's not gone in 2024.
Democracy was never here, baby. Moving right along. Let's go into some more Milwaukee news. What the hell? Alright. So, a lot has been, since the murder of George Floyd over a year ago, police reform has been a topic of discussion. I am an abolitionist. I believe that putting human beings in cages is inhumane in itself, and there is a system. There has to be a system better than putting our fellow human beings away from cages and isolating them from members of their family and society, and then throwing them back into society as if they're supposed to know what they're supposed to do. So, Milwaukee, where I'm from, has strengthened their use of force policy, and we'll see what they say about how that impacts reform. And in terms of reform, I think the only police reform that is meaningful is reform that takes away money from the police, strips laws away from police immunity, and gives power to the people to control the police. And citizens should not be afraid of the police. And if they are, then there is too much police power. Period. Police should not exist, but that's another story. So let's get to reading. The recent adjustments to the Milwaukee Police Department's use of force practices fall in line with the national reform efforts, but there remains plenty of reform opportunities in other areas of policing and public safety in the city, according to a new report. Those opportunities include expanding initiatives for violence prevention and behavioral health crisis response, strengthening whistleblower protections, improving transparency, and restructuring reviews for incidents involving the use of force. Expanding initiatives for violence prevention. What does that entail? Behavioral health crisis response. What are we doing about behavioral health crisis prevention? So, police officers are supposed to now snitch on their other boys in blue, and they're going to be protected. Okay, let me show you how many police officers have been fired. Like, come on, it's a culture. They're not, okay. Improving transparency. What does that entail? Restructuring reviews. Restructuring reviews for incidents involving, what the fuck? Okay. This means a bunch of nothing so far. Let me try and zoom in. According to the Wisconsin Policy Forum, a nonprofit that studies public issues, published a report Thursday. It compares Milwaukee Police's policies to police reforms being suggested or pursued elsewhere. Okay, can we stop talking? We've been talking about reform for a while. When are we going to implement some shit? Like, okay. The Wisconsin Policy Forum performed a study at the request of Mayor Tom Barrett in an effort to steer additional reform discussions. We felt, coming out of the unrest that we saw and the protests we saw, it was important for us to have a real objective analysis of where the city of Milwaukee Police Department lies in terms of changes that are necessary and changes that have already taken place. So this is my problem. Why aren't you asking people in the community? Why aren't we asking people in communities that are impacted by police violence what changes they would like to see? Because the Wisconsin Policy Forum, let's see who's involved in that. We got slow Wi-Fi. Come on now. I'm not connected to the internet? That cannot be possible. Aw, come on, man. Oh, yeah. There we go. Research. I wonder what burning questions. Oh, here it is. It's the one. The issue of police. Let's just read the policy and what the policy form and what they said about it. The issue of police reform is not new in the city of Milwaukee. Long before May 2020, death of George Floyd in Minneapolis and ensuing national and local protests, Milwaukee had encountered several of its own high-profile incidents of alleged police misconduct, murders. Those incidents generated calls for action from community members, including demands for changes to police training and protocols, as well as increased community oversight. I don't see anything about where it says defunding the police, because that's what the fuck I heard. That's what I heard this summer in the protest. Defund the police. I didn't ask for no more training. We've been saying more training, okay? The training is to kill based on who you think is less valuable than you. But that's cultural. That's how it's been since policing, which evolved from slave catchers, was. So, I mean, but like, this is what I mean. These people, calls from action from community, like, no, We don't want increased community oversight. We want them to not have jobs anymore. No more jobs for the fucking police. Defund the motherfucking police. This is pissing me off. Oh my gosh. The calls for police reform have not gone unnoticed by city officials. In late 2017, so this was 3 years before George Floyd died and nothing has happened, the Milwaukee Common Council established a collaborative community committee, a group that was charged with soliciting the views of Milwaukee residents on police conduct and police community relations and developing reform recommendations. The CCC's report, delivered in April 2019, identified 11 themes that cut across the individual responses and made recommendations in 4 broad areas of Milwaukee Police Department and practices. That's something else I'm looking into. As additional high-profile incidents involving injury or death in police custody have occurred both nationally and locally, calls for police reform have now intensified. Defund the police. Didn't nobody say reform. Defund those motherfuckers. Okay. The nationwide protests that erupted after Floyd's death, including many in Milwaukee, not only amplified calls for reform of police practices with regard to individuals they encountered, but they also engendered new scrutiny of police response to demonstrations and protests. This is what I always was told. You don't blame the oppressed for attacking the oppressor, because the oppressor has been attacking the oppressed the majority of the time, the whole time, okay? So you don't blame the oppressed for attacking. For the police, if I'm gonna rob you, I'm gonna rob you. Even if the police are around, I need that bread. Look, it be like that. But in socialism, you don't need to rob nobody. That's what I'm saying. Like, there would be no need to rob people unless you're greedy. But that's a cultural issue. So did nobody ask the police to reform their practices? We asked to defund them. In light of these strengthened and expanded calls for police reform, the Wisconsin Policy Forum was asked by Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett to conduct research that will help frame reform discussions in Wisconsin's largest city. In this report, we do so by exploring where MPD stands in terms of prominent police reforms being pursued nationally or suggested locally, as well as the department compares peer cities with regard to certain key protocols, practices, and policies. Our purpose is to synthesize and explain police reform proposals in a way that will enhance the understanding of policymakers and members of the community. Greater understanding of national police reform landscape and how MPD fits in will assist them in considering and prioritizing both short-term and longer-term policy changes that will bolster the performance of MPD in relationships with city residents and enhance the safety of all Milwaukee neighborhoods. Bullshit. Bullshit. Who funded this bullshit? Like, get out of here. Like, I really want to... Who contributed? This is all bullshit. Even if money was being handed out, I'm going to still rob people. I like the thrill. Jump out of a plane. Don't be taking folks' stuff. I was about to look up the CCC. Milwaukee Collaborative Community Committee. Research findings of Milwaukee community response to U.S. Department of Justice Collaborative Reform Initiative draft report on the Milwaukee Police Department, City of Milwaukee Fire Commission. It doesn't matter what they found because we all know what the fuck they found. Police are harmful. So back to the article. So this is where this study came from. At request of Tom Barrett, I don't understand why we need to keep doing studies when motherfuckers have been saying defund the police, but I digress. Clearly, as this is Barrett talking, our mayor, clearly as everyone understands there's room for improvement, he added. I think all those are really the cutting edge issues that we're grappling with now as a community. Milwaukee is set to receive $406 million from President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package, and Barrett said Wednesday, he plans to direct some of that cash toward violence prevention efforts, although it's unclear how much. He also said the city is continuing to work with Milwaukee County on bolstering its mental health crisis response efforts. If that money, if he plans to direct some of this cash towards violence prevention efforts, if any of that shit goes to fucking MPD, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind, because MPD is not gonna do shit with that money except for militarize their police force even more. There are fucking tanks rolling down fucking McKinley Avenue. That's the street across from the basketball stadium, NBA stadium in Milwaukee. Like, they're fucking liars. They're giving that straight to MPD. I'm mostly target white people, so it doesn't matter. They deserve it anyway. Even if they had less shit than me, I'm gonna take it from them. I'm not a race essentialist, so if you do what you gotta do, do what you gotta do. I ain't hating. But they're giving this fucking money to MPD. It's so annoying. The report notes that reforms focused on the use of force in Milwaukee over the last year have matched those in other U.S. cities. Since December, the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission have approved policy changes that ban chokeholds with no exceptions and requires officers to use de-escalation techniques, provide aid to civilians immediately after using force on them. Oh, so police officers have to now treat people like actual human beings when they fucking, shoot them. They can't just leave them laying in the street like they did from Michael Brown. They can't treat people like animals. Why is this a law? Why does this need to be made a policy? If you need to tell people that you need to provide them care after you shoot them, it's something wrong with the foundation of policing. Then, if you have to ban chokeholds, if you have to tell officers that they have to de-escalate a situation first, what the fuck is the point of a police officer then, if they're not de-escalating shit? Oh yeah, that's right, to cause more violence, because when you put more police officers in communities, more violence happens. Yes. Why do you think Chicago, one of the most police cities in America, has about a 30% murder homicide conviction rate? Because the motherfuckers don't do their jobs. They just perpetuate more crime. They don't solve crime. They perpetuate it. Woo! It's getting me rolled up. Alright, but the report found plenty of opportunities for more reform. Fuck reform, abolish the police, oftentimes comparing Milwaukee to 5 peer cities: Baltimore, Kansas, Memphis, Minneapolis, and Tucson. Tucson's Arizona, correct? The city of Milwaukee, violence prevention. Let's see what this means. The city of Milwaukee debuted its Office of Violence Prevention in 2008. It partners with police and other community and government organizations to reduce violence by mediating disputes and connecting residents with a variety of resources, among other activities. The office had a budget of $3.7 million, but just under half that amount is supplied by grant funding, which can limit its programming, according to the report. Top of that, Milwaukee appears to invest fewer resources into violence prevention than its peer cities, the report found. The same kind of office in Minneapolis, for example, has an annual budget of $6.7 million with a staff more than twice the size of Milwaukee's. Okay, but does this go to MPD? Office of Violence Prevention, I'm pretty sure that's MPD. Sorry, you see my sweat stain. Oh, it's the health department. Okay. Okay. I'll be salty. The office has a budget of $3.7 million. Oh my gosh, that's fucking nothing. MPD gets like fucking 800, 300. I can't forget MPD budget. Wow. $297.4 million. A 10% decrease would amount to around 30 million. Damn. So, you know what we can do if we gave 30 million to the Department of Health Services? Just 10% of the motherfuckers' budgets. Just 10%. Like, come on. Like, this not even 10% in Minneapolis, but we're supposed to, like, clap our hands, like, ooh, 6.7 million? Like, bitch, get the fuck out of here. 297 million for one department in the city when, let me just tell you, well, Milwaukee County has, like, many cities. So we have Wauwatosa, Brookfield, Waukesha, Oak Creek. So many little cities, and all the police just intersect into each other's jurisdiction. So, like, it's just a fucking free-for-all in Milwaukee County. And I'm supposed to, like, cheer because $3.7 million is given while $297 million is given to the police. And this is just for the Office of the Budget, or for Violence Prevention. So I guess this is just a small sector of the health department. However, 2008, and it's only had that's like 13 years. It's weird. So, let's see, crisis response. Milwaukee Police and the Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Division have already partnered to establish 3 teams consisting of specially trained officers and clinicians to respond to mental health crises. 3 teams, okay. And while the report was complimentary of their effectiveness, it also pointed out room for improvement. Those teams still do not operate 24 hours a day or 7 days a week, and they only have the capacity to respond to a fraction of mental health-related calls. The report said, both the city and county have made independent efforts to find more funding for such programs. The report noted both entities could collaborate more closely in that regard. So, find more funding. I found it. I found the funding. I found the funding. There it is. Found it. Found it. Found it. So now what? Defund the fucking police. That's what the fuck we've been saying. Okay? Defund the police. Not find more funding, not divert resources and cut things here, cut things here. Oh, Biden gave us millions of dollars here, so we'll put it here. No. Defund the motherfuckers. I want no police. Take their jobs, get them out of here. Okay? We don't need to find any more funding. I found it. I found it. Like, you're so fucking dumb. They don't listen. They don't fucking listen. Transparency. There's about to be some shit. The report noted that it did not uncover a glaring lack of transparency within the policies of Milwaukee police, but it did zero in on several shortcomings. Before I read this, I just want to note that Chief Morales said that whenever there was a shooting, they would release body cam footage within 45 days. That they did not follow their own precedent. They have went more than 45 days without releasing videos of people being murdered by people we pay, whom our taxes pay, their lives, their salaries, okay? So, how did you not uncover a glaring lack of transparency? We'll see. The First Department has not banned nor does it publish data on its use of no-knock search warrants, which have become a controversial law enforcement tool following the death of Breonna Taylor in Louisville in 2020. In contrast, cities like Baltimore, Memphis, and Tucson have stopped using such warrants, while Minneapolis instituting new guidelines severely restricting their use. Get rid of the shit. Stop using the warrants. Stop using no-knock warrants. How come they have not been no-knock warrants? You can just walk in motherfuckers' houses and just start shooting? Get out of here. Get out of here. Like, the logistics, like, not the logistics, the logic behind it, the logic behind y'all idiotic ideas makes no goddamn sense. It makes no damn sense. Continuing. Second aspects of Milwaukee policies regarding the use of tear gas and pepper spray are redacted from public viewing because of their strategic nature, the report says. So this is just in response to what happened after George Floyd. Like, okay, so they can't use tear gas or pepper spray. Great. Where does it say that they will release body cam footage as soon as it happens so that we can see what the fuck happened? And so that y'all don't have a chance to edit shit, to cut shit out, to do whatever the fuck you want with it. That's not transparency. Nobody talks about that. Like, who did this report? I need to go back again. Like, who are the... Herein lies the problem. Where are the people of color? Liberals. A bunch of liberals. A bunch of liberals who don't have the lived experience of black people, who haven't asked a single mother-sucking organizer in Milwaukee what we fucking wanted. And they developed this report. Like, we said defund. I knew it. Like, I knew based on the report that it was made by a bunch of liberal white people who have no knowledge of the history of policing in America, and haven't even listened to what the fuck organizers have been saying. Defund them. Alright, whistleblower protections and critical incident reviews. Milwaukee maintains two separate committees that review critical incidents and officers who are involved in high number of use of force incidents. But civilians are not involved in those processes, something the report noted is out of step with other cities. Okay, Baltimore, Memphis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Tucson have review boards composed mostly of civilians or non-police city employees, the report said. Milwaukee's Oversight Board, in contrast, reviews complaints from citizens but does not uniformly review use of force incidents. And although Milwaukee police policies already clarify that officers who report their peers are violating the department's code of conduct will not be punished, the report found the department does not have a formal whistleblower protection policy. The culture would never permit this. Police culture is to join in ranks, close in, protect your own, and fuck everybody else. Literally fuck everybody else. Okay, so if you're not with them, you're against them, and they will get you out. Milwaukee lacks a kind of explicit policy that outlines how whistleblowers will be protected and supported, unlike other cities such as Baltimore, Kansas City, and Memphis. This article meant nothing. This meant absolutely nothing. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? These reforms do nothing. This is not even what people wanted. Like, we said divert resources to other departments, like the health department and social services. That's what we said. But now you're studying all this bullshit that nobody asked for, that everybody already knew. Like, we already knew this. This is what we knew right here. Although Milwaukee police policies already clarify that officers report their peers for violating the department's code of conduct will not be punished, they don't have any formal policy. Duh. Fucking duh. Like, they're not, because they don't want to protect whistleblowers. Like, the density around the police and, like, what they are and what they do is just really astounding to me. But I guess if you have that privilege to not care about how the police, react and stuff like that, well, lucky for you. I'm done with that. That pissed me off. I'm going to